I had the opportunity to meet with a gentleman recently, and as he was sharing and he's really opening up his heart, he says, "I am a monster." Now, the reason he said this is because many years ago he had done an act which was not good, and so from that act he identified himself as a monster. Now, the reality is he's not the monster; it's the act that was displayed monster type. Personality. But if he doesn't let this go, then being a monster inside, I mean, he's convincing himself of this, and he's more or less lost his freedom. He's in darkness, he's in tension, he has no ability to really receive God's love or even to give God's love because of how he has treated himself. And so in that second reading, the letter to the Ephesians, Jesus has come motivated by God's rich mercy to set us free, to bring back our freedom. We all probably have a certain sin that, disrupts our freedom and disrupts our relationship with God. And yet Jesus has come to take care of that. He's come to renew our freedom. We've been given the gift of free will. By being born and being alive, we can choose, even our inner being, we can choose how we respond to different things through the act of a free will. And Jesus has come to renew this for us. And we recognize that the gift of grace that God gives us is a gift. We just participate in it or we accept it. And even eternal life. So Jesus both saves us from this life situation, but he also saves us for eternal life. And this ought to bring us freedom. And when we are free on the inside, we're more likely to commit acts of goodness towards others. In our first reading from the second book of Chronicles, all God is trying to do is get the people to turn back to him. The people are in their rebellious ways. They have not kept the Sabbath or even allowed the land to take a rest, and therefore they will end up in exile. Now, it's not God that puts them in exile. It's themselves that eventually puts them in exile because they simply won't turn back to God. And when we turn to God, we receive grace, we also receive mercy. It doesn't matter what we've done in life, God will welcome us. What a beautiful gift that is. What a freeing gift that is, a renewing gift that is. But eventually it will be an outsider that will come and set the people free, and they will be renewed, they will be restored, but hopefully to rebuild their spiritual lives as they rebuild their emotional and their physical lives as well. In our gospel reading, Jesus makes reference in his conversation with Nicodemus to the serpent that would be lifted up. Now, this was the situation for the Israelite people who are complaining, and then all of a sudden they're being bit by these venomous snakes, which is not good. And so Moses was encouraged to craft a serpent and to put on a pole. And when the people would look at that, they would be healed. But really what was happening is they were to get outside of themselves and lift their heads towards God. And when we can do the same act when we look upon a cross. We look upon a cross and we can see the great mercy and the great love of our God. Now, Jesus has come to dispel the darkness within us. We have to constantly let go of our darkness, and we can do this through Christ, and we know that Christ is willing to accept us as we are, and we can approach Jesus Christ in any circumstance of life. And then Jesus brings us to light. Jesus will also make us aware of our darkness, the things that we do need to let go of. But, we can see from this reading that great John 3:16, that it's also love that motivates Jesus to be born among us. And one of the things I kind of thought about is, the Trinity, spilled love into creation, at the beginning of time. Creation began. And then, it's that same love that spilled the Son into creation to reveal who God is for us. So that ultimately we know who we are. Because when we know who we are, beloved sons and daughters, then we can respond with greater freedom. And that's our truest identity, because this will be identity that will last for eternity. Being a monster will at some point die, and we will recognize and we will lift up our heads and know that we are beloved sons and daughters of God. So as we gather around the table, Lord, once again, we share in this meal with our loving God, and what a great gift it is as we receive the bread of life, that we can be life-giving towards others.